Hey, you want to hear the craziest real-life story you've ever heard? April 2013, Tupelo, Mississippi. Resident Kevin Curtis hops into his car with his dog Moo Cow. Top 10 dog names, by the way. The local janitor, conspiracy theorist, and Elvis impersonator is on his way to go see his ex-wife when suddenly 20 cars filled with feds surround him. Before he knows it, he's on the ground and Moo Cow is on the run. At least they didn't shoot it. Curtis is sent 90 miles to the Lafayette County Jail, where he spends 3 hours alone chained to a chair, never being told why he's even there. Eventually, he's interrogated, with investigators trying to get him to confess. But Curtis has no idea what to even confess to. Hours go by. The cops even start lying to him, telling him that there's a little girl in a hospital dying because of what he's done, and then they start crying. Again, not true. But Curtis is just a deer in headlights at this point, so finally the investigators spill the castor beans. Sir, poison letters with your name on it were sent to a local judge, that's bad, a senator, that's really bad, and the President of the United States, Barack Obama. That's literally the worst person you could possibly send it to. Admit it, Curtis, you made the poison. You made the ricin. Ha! I'll have you know, I don't even like rice. What? Yeah, check my house. There's not even any rice in it. No, rice in. Yeah, no rice in my house. The feds soon realize they've been duped, bamboozled, and smeckledorfed. They have the wrong guy. So they ask, you wouldn't happen to have any enemies, would you? Yes, I have an arch nemesis. Of course you do. His name is Everett Dusky. But hold on, who's Dusky? Who's even Curtis? And if he didn't try to kill the president, then who did? Well, for that story, we'll need to start at the start of Elvis. Born in Tupelo in 1935, Elvis discovered the dance move known as white boy coolin', which no one had ever thought of before. And the pelvis of Elvis skyrocketed to stardom before the King's Commode show bowed low for his heart load and he died, prompting many people to dress up as him for the rest of time. That all makes sense? Fast forward to 1999, and in old Tupelo there lives another king, Kevin Curtis. He was a top-tier Elvis impersonator, doing shows around the state with his brother as the world's first fraternal Elvis act. And on the side, he ran a janitor business, swiveling hips and cleaning for tips. Everything was great until one fateful day. While cleaning the hospital one night, Curtis realized the only doctor he needed was pepper. So he opened a fridge, but instead of carbonation, he found cadavers. The whole fridge was filled with body parts. A horrifying discovery, is what I would say if he wasn't in the morgue. You know, where they keep dead bodies, and you know, where you shouldn't be opening random fridges looking for soda. But Curtis didn't let logic like that stop him from coming to the only reasonable conclusion that the hospital was selling illegal body parts on the black market and everyone was in on it. Curtis claims to have been confronted by the hospital CEO the next day, probably because he was opening random fridges in the morgue, and got banned from the hospital, which I didn't even know you could do. Sounds pretty unsafe to me, but what do I know? I'm no doctorologist. After his quest for carbonation ended in cadavers, things went bad for Curtis. Nobody listened to him, shocker. He couldn't keep a job. He went on stage at the Tupelo Elvis Festival, which is a thing that exists, and ranted about black market bodies, which basically ended his Elvis engagements. His marriage fell apart, his house burned down, his car exploded, he went bankrupt, and was arrested 22 times in a 13-year span. Now, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but frankly, if all that happened to me, I'd probably have a few choice words for the Rothschilds. Once everything had gone wrong, Curtis decided, well, might as well go off the deep end, and began his carcass crusade in earnest, spreading his story all over the internet and creating a book and screenplay called Missing Pieces. The One Piece! About a janitor named Keith Connors who, you guessed it, finds body parts in a hospital. This all obviously went nowhere, and all hope seemed lost until 2006, when he found a paper claiming to print any story, no matter how controversial, ran by a man named Everett Dusky. But after numerous emails and phone calls, like that girl you tried to message last week, he got no reply. Dusky was an equally colorful character. A Taekwondo instructor, Rubik's Cube master, politician, member of High IQ Society Mensa, and frontman of Dusty and the Robodrum, which played progressive guitar funktronica for smart people, which had the same amount of success as my group, Boone and the Based Baller Band. So none. But most importantly, he was an insurance salesman that just happened to work with Curtis's ex-wife. In fact, she claims that Dusky would often flirt with her, and she only didn't start an affair because he was, quote, short and hairy. Damn. Anyways, Curtis decided to crash one of their work meetings to confront him. Dusky said he couldn't print the story because he was planning on running for state legislature and he didn't want to jeopardize his campaign, which, I mean, why even have a conspiracy theory paper at that point, but whatever. From that point forward, the two became bitter enemies, yet no one really knew why they suddenly started hating each other so viscerally. In fact, they were quite similar. Each of them didn't even know why the other hated him so much. They both supposed the other was jealous and wanted to be them. Maybe this town wasn't big enough for two multi-talented musical prodigies sticking it to the man. Dusky's political campaign was more of a smear campaign against incumbent Steve Holland, suggesting that he was a gay communist and friends with the 9/11 hijackers for seemingly no reason. Curtis was obviously a vocal opponent, and Dusky would end up losing the election 27 to 68%, which means 1 in 4 people still voted for him somehow. God bless Mississippi. From there, both accused the other of stalking them, spreading slander online, sending strings of emails simply reading "you're a dumbass" and other spy versus spy-esque tomfoolery. One day, Curtis decided to post a fake Mensa certificate on his MySpace, since Dusky was known for flashing his Mensa card at every opportunity, something everyone loved, of course. By the way, I took the Mensa IQ test and I was 2 IQ points away from being genius Mensa level, and I make YouTube videos while chewing crayons, dude, so I don't know how much that genius card was really credible. But Dusky furiously emailed Curtis, demanding he take it down, and eventually challenged him to finish things once and for all at his dojo, which Curtis accepted. And while I'd love to tell you they had some anime-style Goku versus Uncle Grandpa battle, they both claimed the other one didn't show up. This all went on for years, until one day Dusky got arrested, for reasons I don't want to talk about. I guess they were both continuing Elvis's legacy in their own way. Curtis was obviously over the moon when he heard, gloating all over Facebook and YouTube, and this seemed to be the final straw for Dusky. April 2013. Judge Sadie Holland, mother of Representative Steve Holland, is told she has a suspicious letter with some grainy substance inside. Assuming it was sand from someone's honeymoon for some reason, she opened it. The letter contained Curtis's initials along with a bunch of his catchphrases. I mean, come on, you thought this guy didn't have catchphrases? The exact same letter had been sent to Senator Roger Wicker as well as President Obama, but they never reached their targets. And yet, even if they had, the ricin was so shitty that this 80-year-old woman came in direct contact with it and walked away none the wiser. After realizing a guy trying to kill the president probably wouldn't literally sign his death warrant, it didn't take long for the feds to realize that Dusky was a little bit more susky. How's this for genius? Coworker said he openly talked about his secret knowledge for getting rid of people in the office. While searching his computer, police found eBay records for castor beans as well as a file titled Standard Operating Procedure for Ricin. Real subtle. And they caught him on camera throwing away just about everything someone making a deadly poison would need, including a coffee machine. And everyone knew Dusky hated coffee, calling it, quote, poison. Oh, the irony. During his trial, Dusky went on a 30-minute rant about how the feds lied about DNA evidence, offered to eat the ricin in a PB&J sandwich for some reason, and basically asked, "Are you sure it wasn't Curtis?" When asked about Dusky, Steve Holland, former opponent and son of Judge Holland, stated, "I believe he's going to go in a tight end and come out a wide receiver." Real quote by an elected official. Dusky would receive 25 years that he's serving to this day, and Curtis was free of all charges, probably feeling a bit vindicated that there truly was a conspiracy centering around him. Guess he could put his suspicious mind to rest. Am I right? Am I right? Guess he wouldn't be singing Jailhouse Rock, right guys? Right? Oh, you fucking Zoomers even understand this? But if you thought that was the only batshit insane plot to kill President Obama with ricin letters sent in someone else's name in the spring of 2013, you'd be wrong. It's May 2013, 2 weeks after Dusky's conviction, and the police receive a report from Shannon Richardson, a pregnant actress with small roles in The Walking Dead and The Vampire Diaries. She alleges that her husband sent ricin letters to a gun control activist, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and old Barack H. Obama. But police said, "Pause it, prima donna, we've seen this one before," and started a deeper investigation. Lo and behold, it was actually her. Once hearing that her third husband wanted a divorce, she started thinking of ways to get get back at him. And there's nothing to link the two cases, but she did buy all the materials just as the Dusky story was coming out. I like to think she saw the story on the news and thought to herself, those Mensa morons couldn't tell a downer from a lurker. I could do way better. Alas, mailing spiked letters, getting caught, and saying "nuh-uh" isn't a much better plan. It was revealed for the first time during the trial that the FBI was secretly using a mass surveillance program on all US postal packages, which traced the letters back to her, which is really funny because that means they had this technology when they arrested Curtis, but they just forgot, I guess. Richardson was sentenced to 18 years, which she serves to this day. Luckily, neither of these short-sighted shenanigans got anyone hurt, but can you just for a second imagine if either of these worked? The Wikipedia page for presidential poachers would go John Wilkes Booth, Lee Harvey Oswald, guy who was mad that an Elvis impersonator was mean to him on Facebook, 3-time divorced pregnant actor lady from Zombie Show. And I didn't even mention the guys who built a death ray to get Obama like a month later. But this all just goes to show that dude, I don't know. Don't kill the president. How about that? Don't kill the president. Don't try. There's your lesson.